right. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Adam with Cosmic Spud. I'm joined by Garrett, our lead developer for Ancient Legacy of Azul, which is now available um, as of right this moment. So it is available on Steam and itch.io for purchase. What we're just going to do here on this stream is just show you some more gameplay if you need to see some more of it, maybe before you pull the trigger on making a purchase or whatever you need for that, and also just answer any questions you may have regarding the game. And yeah, so we're going to get started here. The music you're hearing is by our musician and composer, Matthew Martino. We will have the soundtracks available for purchase as well on both of those platforms. And bear with me if I have any difficulties trying up a new stream setup across multiple platforms. So I will do my best to answer all of your chat and respond to everything. I do have assistance though. So we're gonna go ahead and just start playing a whole bunch of Ancient. I guess the only thing I won't be showing off is the final boss. We'll allow those of you to fight the boss for yourself. Kind of want to let the players enjoy that for the first time themselves, and not see that on our streams at least. So without any further ado, let's get started here. And we're gonna probably be live for about 2-ish hours or so. So we'll probably have time to show you all of the characters. So we're just gonna start with the one that all of you will start with as default, which is the Wayfarer. So feel free to read your descriptions and learn how your abilities work for yourselves. The developer, I do not need these things, and I shall get started here.
Yep. And as things get started, the game, you will unlock more characters as you go. As mentioned, the Wayfarer is the character you start with. He is kind of a melee ranged hybrid, jack of all trades, master of none. It does have the ability to heal himself with his homebrew ability, so that's his third skill, which can make him a little easier to use, but he's not going to put out the damage that a lot of other characters can put out.
Making me work for my items. Gotta go way away from the exit here. As I said, we're just gonna be, or rather, I will be just playing a whole bunch of this for y'all, so y'all can get a taste of what's in store for yourself if you choose to pick up Ancient. Now available. So there may be moments of us not talking is mainly all I am leading to.
See a fellow Cosmic Spud on the YouTube stream. Good to see you, like-named individual.
And do feel free to speak up if there's any technical issues with audio balancing or anything of the sort. Should be all good to go, but just in case it isn't, feel free to bring it up.
Hey, making you work for the items at first, but you got a decent item set going right now. Not a lot of synergies at the moment. You got a little bit of healing with your roots and then your shaman's trinket. And then of course the flame lash, which Might put a lead to the legendary lamp build.
Fellow Cosmic Spud on YouTube asks, will there be more content in the future? Any thoughts on that?
I would imagine there will at least be some updates as we go along for balance passes. I would like to add a couple more characters. That of course is dependent on how well the game does itself, but I would expect to see some more characters, more items.
I'm not here for you, the collector. I'm here for items. I'm just thinking is all.
So here we have our intermediate stage. Every time you go to another stage, you'll stop in the collector's form or one of the secret stages, which you'll probably end up seeing in this stream. Here you have the option to purchase a couple items, and you can see some things that cost Azul stones. Adam did pick up one of the Azul stones here. What those do, they're much rarer currencies, but they can be used for some very useful things, like buying a rare item, buying an Azul item. You can remove mutations. You can upgrade Azul items. So there's a lot of useful stuff you get to do there. You can grab some additional items and such. And speaking of Azul items, hopefully we can get one in a bit. Maybe get a specialized build going on.
That there was me sitting around trying to gather enough Azul dust, which is dropped from all enemies, to try to be able to purchase some armor polish, because I do have one chilling, which is going to slow me down, but I may get some damage over time mutations that I want to try to mitigate. Garrett, why don't you explain, for anybody new to it, what our mutations are doing in Ancient?
Of course. So at the bottom of the screen, you can see the items that Adam currently has. He's got a decent item spread, pretty good variety there. But at the top of the screen, you can see the two icons up there. That is the chilling and the accurate mutation. So as you play through Ancient, the bar on the right-hand side of the screen, it'll be filling up. It's the instability bar and the mutation activation bar. So the big long purple bar, that's your instability. The higher it gets, the worse mutations you're going to get. The diamond at the bottom, when that fills up, you get a new mutation. So that's happened twice here, or we may have gotten mutation from other things, like the Shrine to the Unknown God that he just hit.
Correct.
And so what the mutations do, they provide a very dynamic fight for what the enemies are going to do. So right now, looking at the mutations you have, you got some extra damage. You got the accurate, which gives enemies a chance to critically hit you. You got the amplified, which gives them just more base attack damage. And then that chilling, which will slow you down. So watch out for some big hits if you get slowed.
On Hornet, give me my $1. Thank you. So as Garrett was saying, the Wayfarer, who I'm currently playing as, is, yes, our Jack of all trades, so you'll probably see me using my basic attack, which is the Sword Slash. It hits on the Grave Lord here, our boss of Stage 2. In addition, I have my gun. I better drink some homebrew, taking some hits there. in addition to my blade dash, which will let me get a hit while I guess it accomplishes three things. Give me a little bit of invulnerability frames, get some damage out, and some mobility. There you can see the Grave Lord's melee attack managed to proc me with a stack of chilling, so whenever he's hitting me, it's slowing me down a little bit.
Yep, don't have any mobility items except for that Hunter Medallion, which is a very useful one, but only activates on kill. So getting chilled is kind of ruin your mobility here.
Getting really lucky with some of my blocks, which are happening courtesy of my lucky Rapid's Foot, which allow me to block some incoming attacks, or rather, dodge them.
Yep. And the most recent mutation you got is Potent. That is the right-hand side of the mutations at the top. That is an uncommon mutation. Mutations come in 3 tiers: common, uncommon, and rare. The uncommons tend to be stronger in the commons, rares tend to be stronger in all of them. Typical progression there. But that Potent, that's one of the worst ones to get. If you get inflicted by any damage over time effect, like burning, freezing, poison, or bleeding, anytime it's inflicted on you, you're going to end up increasing the amount applied by the amount of potence you have. So if you got 1 potent and you get inflicted by bleed, you're going to get 2 stacks of bleed instead of 1. It can get really dangerous really quickly.
Here I am again in the collector's farm between combat, a moment of respite, figuring out what I want to do. So there are means of getting builds, as it were. I can get this Righteous Fury, try to go for the aforementioned lamp build potentially. I also have already stacked up 2 Azul stones, so I could grab this Amulet of the Hunt.
Yep. And just mentioning the Righteous Fury, so that's one of our Azul items. Azul items are different. You can only have 1, and you don't stack them, you upgrade them.
I'll go ahead and grab it for example's sake. So as you'll see, the Righteous Fury is now occupying the slot above my health there. As Garrett said, I can only have 1 of those at a time.
Yep,
So,
and Azul items are typically meant to complement or really define a build. So this Righteous Fury that he picked up, what it does is anytime you crit on a short cooldown, you will inflict bleed or burn on all enemies within your light radius. So if you've got a lot of crit on your build and you've got some good light radius, the Righteous Fury can really ramp up your damage and apply a lot of burn stacks. Additionally, that Amulet of the Hunt he picked up, the first rare he's got, not only does that give extra crit chance, it also gives a chance to double crit. And with the Righteous Fury, if you double crit, instead of applying 1 stack of burn, it will double the amount applied. So if you double crit, everyone within your light radius is going to get 2 stacks of burn. So, and we joked earlier about a lamp build. So one of the things that was early on in the game, there is an item that increases your light radius. It's called the lamp root. On its own, definitely one of the least useful items, but as a utility for some of the other items, it can scale really well.
I had a question earlier again from Cosmic Spud asking, will co-op be added?
No plans for co-op at this time.
Speaking of lamp roots, I would really love to get my hands on a few of those. So my Righteous Fury is being bottlenecked a little bit. quite have the build for it.
Those mutations are starting to stack up pretty badly.
I'm
Now,
not looking forward to those, indeed.
yep, and this upcoming boss fight's going to be pretty rough, especially with those two potents. So, if you look on the right, the instability bar is that purple bar it's building. It's getting very close to the top. If it fills all the way up and he gets a new mutation when that diamond fills all the way up, it's guaranteed to be a rare mutation. So if can't clear this level pretty quick, we might see something nasty come.
Currently, a somewhat uphill battle. Definitely having to work for this one. Especially if those Yetis land any more hits on me.
Yep. And those potent mutations against the Cyclops are just rough. So the Cyclops himself has innate freezing. So he can inflict freezing on his hits, and of course that's going to scale with those potents. And you saw here he got slashed and applied 3 stacks of freezing, which not only does damage, but it'll slow him down and slow his attacks down. Whew. And there we saw one of the items activate the preserving oil. So when his health dropped below a certain point, preserving oil activated, gave him some additional health, and kept him from dying. It will protect you from instant kills, one-shots. It'll always restore you to the minimum amount of health you got, but very, very useful item in this case.
And what I
Okay.
did just there was I went ahead and traded in some Azul dust, got myself a Azul stone, and then got rid of said stone for in return for clearing a mutation. Got rid of the freezing mutation, and I also activated the other interactable there to clear, or rather lower, my instability. That's gonna try to help prevent that rare mutation from racing my path. Unfortunately, though, in being a gambling man, which I really shouldn't be, knowing my luck, I have been hitting these shrines to the unknown god, and what happened on one of those was it decided not to give me an item, but instead give me a mutation, the unstable mutation. So now my instability is going to go up even faster. Now what we're seeing here is, as time goes on, the game's going to start throwing some heavier enemies at me. So these crawlers here are the erupting elites. They spew out those rather heavy-hitting projectiles. There's a single lamproot. Oh, we got another one here. I think I'll stick around for that one, because that will help me immensely. Again, it doesn't do much on its own, but with what I've got going here, it will help a lot.
There we go. Now we're getting those crits, building up those burning stacks.
Oh, don't want to do that. That was a face full of poisonous projectiles from the Hive Queen. And those poisonous projectiles are going to take advantage of all the potents that I have. I need to be very careful here. I do not have the healing to overcome all this. I have to rely on the Wayfarer's fourth ability, the homebrew potion we've talked about before, to try to get some healing. Grab all this.
Yeah. Ooh, if you don't manage to kill the Hive Queen pretty quick, you are going to end up with a rare mutation on this fight. Which, depending on what you get, may bring things down. There's that preserving oil keeping him alive again. Now, the poison won't kill you directly. It scales off of your remaining health, how much damage it'll do. So there are ways to apply it yourself. It's very useful for taking down bosses, since they have really large health pools. But same thing applies to you. It will do a lot of damage to you very quickly.
Gonna get out of there while I still can. Ah, and here we have a item display which I can trade out some other commons for lamp. So that is probably going to work very well for me in this scenario. I'm going to try to get rid of a mutation. Piercing, not a great one to get rid of in this scenario. Love to get rid of those potents. That's definitely going to be my goal here. Might grab another apothecary belt for a little extra healing. Granted, it's not going to do me a whole lot of good in the heat of everything. I'll do one more. That'll probably be a good compromise. Don't want to lose all of my items. Get some crit.
Yeah. So now we see that massive light radius circle covering about half the screen. So like we mentioned earlier, that Righteous Fury on all his crits, assuming it's on a cooldown, which is a very short cooldown, everyone within that light radius is going to be lit on fire.
So I've made it to stage 5. We're on the orchard now. Don't let the beautiful melodic music, again, courtesy of our composer and musician Matthew Martino, betray the fact that they're all still trying to kill me. That has not changed. And here we are now with the first rare mutation. So I got explosive. So as you started saying there, as I'm killing those enemies, they're gonna explode. So I do not want to get caught in those. So I may have a bit of a backfire with my Righteous Fury if I'm killing all these enemies around me and then have explosions to avoid. Not really usually a problem that I never really think about, but I suppose it's a possibility.
As you mentioned the music, I might have you turn the music up just a little bit. It's a little faint in the back.
Alright. I'll go ahead and do that right now. It's not going to be a whole lot, but a little bit. And while I do that, I'm going to just refresh one little thing, make sure I'm getting all my chats from these different sources. Okay. another rare mutation. And now I have troll flesh. Or rather, they have troll flesh. They're like a troll. Gonna get some health regen of their own. Have to try to overcome pretty much just by pure damage.
Yep. And with health regen, this applies to both players and enemies. There is a slight cooldown after you receive direct damage. Your health regen will pause. So you can overcome it. You just gotta keep pushing your advantage to keep dealing damage.
Did get lucky there. The altar to exit did decide to give me a rare. This does have a chance to do so, and is influenced actually by the number of enemies you take out. I guess we can highlight that on this next stage, assuming I make it that far. Let's try to get rid of one of these nasty mutations. Unstable is a good one to get rid of. So that was increasing the instability gain, so hopefully now that that is removed, shouldn't get such nasty mutations. But I will just continue grabbing these shrines to the unknown god and giving myself more mutations, so I don't even need the game's help to make it harder. Here's something we haven't seen yet. This is one of the shrines which will spawn a nice juicy wave of, in this case, elite quillbacks. I can get rid of them all before time expires. We're made with an item.
Yep. And if you fail to get rid of them all in time, not only do you still have to deal with them, you also end up with a new mutation.
That is going to help us out a lot. Grab myself a bloodletter. It's going to allow me to heal based off of how much damage I do. Let's... maybe I want to... Butterhorn. Oh, the boss decided they wanted to come out to play a little early. Didn't want to wait till they were called on. And that's because, as I'm getting pretty far on the clock, a lot of times on the clock, the bigger and badder enemies are going to keep on coming. Which will include bosses. I really want to get out of here.
Yep, nearly 25 minutes on still not getting the last stage. This is a pretty long, pretty slow run right now.
That might be it for me. Oh, we shall see. Preserving oil and homebrew. Keep me alive there. Safety again. Got myself 1 stone, and I still have 2 rare mutations. And that potent. There's phasing gone. That one's a very obnoxious one, in my opinion. Grab a little
Yep.
armor. Stay alive slightly better.
Yeah,
And
that phasing. So what that one does? Just we keep mentioning things. I'm trying to explain as we go along. The phasing mutation gives enemies a dodge chance. So one of your big juicy hits. So you can see that the lightning bolts coming down occasionally. They do a lot of damage, but if enemies have the phasing mutation, they might dodge that. And for anyone just now joining, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Be happy to answer.
we are playing Ancient Legacy of Azul. Out now. Made by yours truly, Cosmic Spud. That's us. And that is available on both Steam and itch.io. Mama Moose Music, who is actually our musician, as he is quite intimate with how the game is going and everything. He's just asking what difficulty. I'm currently playing on the normal difficulty. I am going to be this is your means of access to the final boss, as I said earlier. We won't be showing the final boss here today. We want you all to be able to experience that for yourselves for the first time. So what I'm going to be able to do, though, instead, like all the other stages we've seen before, is I will be able to enter the portal to make my way to the next stage. So what that's going to do, assuming I survive these diseased elite beholders, is going to allow me to just loop around, go back to the first stage. Granted, it will be stage 8, of course. Which is what I'm going to be doing. So, in doing so, and not trying to complete the game, taking on the final boss, I will be getting more and more items, and the enemies will be getting more and more mutations. So, I guess, Garrett, while I make my decisions here, I guess you can just explain our idea of not necessarily power creep, maybe power creep, but the whole concept of items of getting vast amounts of power and the enemies getting lots of mutations.
Yep. So of course we don't want to prevent players from having just god runs, just snowballing out of control. It's kind of the fun thing of it, having that power fantasy. And that being said, the way the mutations scale, you will basically the world's always going to catch up with you, regardless of how powerful you are in your run. It can all come crumbling down in an instant as enemies get more mutations, get more powerful. It starts getting absolutely crazy. So we got 2 rare mutations here. There's a couple others that you can get that can really mix things up. And of course, there's a lot of other mutations that you could get. If I And you're lucky in this run having you do have those 2 potents and no damage over time mutations.
Yes, it has turned from me really wanting to get rid of them to it not being a huge deal. Granted, any moment I could get, say, a lacerating. I'm probably going to jinx myself, but get a lacerating so enemies get some bleed, maybe a freezing. There's numerous different things they could get. Some molten for fire damage.
And there it is.
There's the lacerating, just like I made it happen. Now I don't want to get hit because that's gonna impart numerous stacks of bleed thanks to those potents. Let's see, got hit. May have got hit more than once, but that was 3 stacks of bleed in a jiffy. So as you can see here, I'm certainly getting quite a bit of damage under my belt. I'm not too confident in my survivability against all these enemies, especially their power that they are trying to wallop me with. There's that unstable again, so that's probably going to do me in once I get a few more rare mutations. Only oh so much I can do against these mutations as in the collector's forum, as I've been doing most of these gaps between stages. I've been trying to buy that Azul stone and spend it to clear a mutation, part of yet another common, so those rares continue pestering me. Granted, as you were probably seeing there, I am doing quite a fair amount of damage, so troll flesh, not a huge deal so long as I can out-damage their healing. I'm gonna boost my light radius a bit more. Get myself some more area of effect, as it were.
Yep. Your lamp will become the sun.
I really should learn my lesson and stop doing shrines to the unknown god. That's clear or something. Stick around a moment. Power up my Azul item. That's going to bring, once I can afford it, that'll bring my Righteous Fury up to a tier 2 Righteous Fury. And make it more powerful. So given all the light radius I have, I certainly have enough to make it work. And there she is, boys. Mitosis. So, Mitosis is, it's gonna allow, or rather, grant mutations every time they apply, aided by the, or aided in severity by the unstable I have. They're going to give me 2 mutations at once. So given that I still have a fair amount of instability, it's quite possible that it'll be a uncommon mutation. Maybe a molten, and then that potent will really finish me off. Still holding on, rather, pretty much just until Mitosis does its work. There's 2 phasings to kick us right off with that. Alright, still holding on. For how much longer? We will have to see. Do one thing super quick.
Am I still? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just making sure.
Okay. I'm putting a devlog for on itch right now.
Terrific. Well, you're not muted to them, but I just wanted to make sure you weren't having any audio problems, as it has been known to happen. You know, I think the best thing I can do right now is get a rabbit's foot. So I can try to dodge additional attacks. Don't really need the healing courtesy of that priestess mask. I will lower my instability. So that at least when the mitosis gives me 2 mutations, hopefully it is a common. That whetstone, so I get a little bit more crit chance to aid my, I mean, both just my pure crit chance, but also get my Righteous Fury cooking off more often. Something to point out is, as I'm playing all this, I have the whole suite of characters and items unlocked already. But as y'all get started, the new save and all that, you will only have what are unlocked by default. So as you go along, you will be able to unlock new items for the criteria that states that they'll be unlocked, and all of that can actually be checked in game in the the journal, which will tell you what you need to do to unlock certain items. Granted, you won't really know what they are; they'll be grayed out, but certainly allow you to get that those things unlocked.
I will say, this is some of the best I've seen someone survive with this many mutations.
8,000 for a stone. Well, there's the cost prohibiting me from getting rid of mutations, because enemies will overcome me eventually. That is part of it. Maybe you didn't collect enough stones. Maybe you can't afford the stones, as I was there. Got my preserving oil going off, so this probably spelling the end for me here, especially with a very damage over time oriented boss like the Cyclops. We will probably find here shortly. I'm still holding on, but there'll be a point at which I'm not. I'm gonna grab this armor polish because that will make me take a little less damage from those damage over time effects. Lower instability again. Keep on rolling. Oh, I'd like to I don't want this run to end per se, but I'd like to show off some more of the characters we've got.
Yep. And so right now, but of course, for anyone who's joining us now, we're playing as the Wayfarer. This is the first character you start with. All the other characters will be locked. He's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. He's got some ranged combat, some melee combats, and he does have the ability to increase his health regen with his homebrew skill. So it can be very, very versatile, and in this case, kind of turn into a melee build with your Righteous Fury. And once again, people who might be joining us right now, the Righteous Fury is what that is. It's his Azul item. If you look in the bottom left of the screen, above his health bar, that's your Azul item slot. Azul items are different from other items in that you can only ever have one, and instead of collecting stacks of them, you upgrade them. So they tend to be build defining. There's a couple variations to that, but in most cases, they're going to take the items you have and really boost the effect they give you. So the Righteous Fury is a good example of that. Whenever it's a critical hit, all the enemies within his light radius, which is a huge area around him right now because of the lamp roots he has, will have a stack of burning applied to them.
And I got rid of the potents. So that may help me out drastically. But I still have a mitosis, another mutation coming in just a few moments. This is going to be a lot of poison.
Yeah, handle it just fine.
I did just eat a couple facefuls of that, so we'll see. Fortunately, unlike the last time I was fighting off against the Hive Queen, this time I have the Bloodletter, which is giving me drastically more healing. So that is my main means of keeping alive at this time.
Beyond your main means, I think it's the only thing keeping you alive right now. Yep. So the Bloodletter, that's one of our rare items. What it does is takes a percentage of the damage you deal and just adds it as health. So it's gonna be very powerful healing if you got some really big hits you can get off. I'm amazed how long you've survived with that mitosis.
What can I say? I'm only been playing this a drastic amount in recent days. Need to grab maybe a flame lash. Be silly and grab Shrine of the Unknown God.
You are approaching the territory of just getting one shot, though.
This is very, very true.
Fortunately, everyone else has been in that territory for you for a little while.
Oh, trust me, there's plenty of spammage. It is not exactly one-shotting. Granted, yes, my damage is very high. Ah, I just gave myself a second explosive. Now I really don't want to get caught in those.
You say second, but because of your mutation, it's your second and third.
Yes, mitosis, indeed. It just means I need to stay away from my kills. Nothing else. It doesn't spell my end or anything. Wisp, which is already the fastest boss, is incredibly fast given those hastens that Mitosis just gave us. Well, this just gave us extra ones.
Now, are you going for the full set of rare mutations?
Maybe, but it happens unintentionally. I just got Molten again, so although I don't have Potent this time, but it's still a nasty one to deal with.
Yeah. And this brings up a good point. So there's 4 different types of damage over time. There's bleed, freezing, burning, and poison, and they all have kind of a different effect. Bleed is your just generic scaling damage. The more stacks you have, the more damage it will do. So it scales exponentially, so if you can stack a lot of bleeds, it can go really fast. You can get a lot of damage really fast. Burning is a little different in that it scales off of the base damage of the strongest enemy that has applied a burn stack of the current stacks. So because the enemies are getting so much damage right now, you can see they've got those 3 amplified mutations. It's a mutation that's the second from the left at the top of the screen. That's upping their base damage. Also, with how many stages he's gone through, they're already getting a pretty big boost to their base damage. So those burns are going to do a lot of damage. And just to round out, just to go ahead and explain all the different damage over time effects. Freezing, it's the damage type, it's a little weaker than bleed, but it scales similarly. But the big thing is that increasing stacks of it will slow the movement speed of whatever is afflicted. And if you do have a freeze stack on an enemy, it will reduce their attack speed by a set amount. And poison, as I mentioned earlier, it will deal damage based on the health, the current health of the enemy or yourself, because if it's applied to yourself, and is very useful for taking out high health enemies, especially since, as you can see, some big numbers coming up right now. Having some poison to deal damage is very useful. All the way back around to the crater. So, I don't know if we talked about lore in any of our streams before, so I might touch on that here. The world as it is, so what ended up happening, a long time ago, there was an empire on this particular continent that you're on here. Very prosperous, doing very well, until the Azul meteor fell. Ended up landing on the capital, and right now is kind of at ground zero in the crater of the meteor. And the way Azul works is it's a corrupting force. It's mutating, it's changing, and it's, while incredibly powerful, tends to have results that, you know, end in destruction and death. So here we are, hundreds of years later, a traveler from a different continent coming in and exploring the Azul wastelands right now. See, while I was talking, you managed to get your potents back.
Indeed, I did. Didn't stay away for too long. This is very unlike the last stream we did, in which playing Nomad, I believe I died in the first 30 or so seconds. So that was a bit of a misfire, as you were. Here we are at nearly 50 minutes. If these numerous lasers don't burn me to a crisp, as they like to do. to get hard to see what's going on as things are just going everywhere. And there it is. A whack ton of damage. Enough to finally get through my healing and all that. So that is plenty of Wayfarer in which you will be able to experience for yourself, as that is the default unlocked character. And let us just continue moving on. As we just, I guess, are back here in the main menu again, we are playing Ancient Legacy of Azul. This is out now on Steam and itch. And yeah, here we are showing you what the game's like, what it's about, and ask us if you have any questions. A little sip of water here. And get back into it. And we also plan on streaming for maybe another 45 minutes to an hour or so in that neighborhood. So feel free to speak up. Let us know if you have any questions. You have a request on character.
Let's see. We played Nomad, Azulmancer, and Pathfinder on the last stream.
I believe we did. I don't think the last stream had any bounty hunter or marauder. We did yeah, we did just do a big melee focused build there, so let's go ranged. So I'm gonna do the bounty hunter.
I see our composer in the chat who is screaming for Marauder. So
he knows I like to play Marauder, possibly my main, as it were. So trying to get me to do more of that. I did also lose one of my chats. Just gonna get that open real quick. Okay, still going strong. Get a moment to stop and smell the flowers as you're not making a mad dash around everywhere, fighting for every inch of ground, trying not to get moited, as it were. Just going to get a move on here. Not looking super great. I have no healing to speak of, so
bit of a turnaround from the last run.
There that goes. I'm just going to do a quick restart and try again. So, as you would have seen there's a bit of randomness. All the items are random every time. So, One time I may start with a rare as my very first item. Other times it may take a bit of work to get to my first rare. That's the idea. You try, you might die, you try again.
Of course, replayability wise, mutations, items, the different stage layouts, that's all randomized. There's different tile sets that can be spawned in for each of the stages, so the runs aren't going to be the same between them. You'll have some nice variation. Looked a little better this time around.
Definitely looks that way and is feeling that way so far. Decisions. I think I might just save my money. Maybe just grab this. Or the future. Maybe try to stock up for purchasing a rare item, as I haven't done so yet, but on any of these these runs, you can buy yourself a rare item in the collector's form, but that one, unlike the common and uncommons, actually cost you Azul stone. 2, in fact. So if I grab one now, I do have one here on the stage. I shall be saving after that and grab myself a rare, assuming I want the rare and that I survive. I may have just doomed myself. Managed to pull that off. I'm by shrine there with nasty erupting crawler elites. Oops. Not close there. Pretty even fight, I'd say, right now. In my items and their mutations. Let's see, sure, we'll grab the cleansing wand. Get ourselves some extra damage of a sort. As you're seeing there, what's happening now with the cleansing wand is, as I kill, we're gonna erupt into a pillar of fire. Gonna deal damage to any their comrades whom it left behind. Suppose I might stick around and grab that rare. Alright, yet another collector's forum. Those stones coming in, so I'll be able to grab the rare. Wait, oh, I can't even attempt to get rid of a random mutation. I don't have the currency. A little extra health, maybe.
And for those just joining us, what he means by getting rid of a random mutation there, within the forum, there's a couple of different special props. The first one being the one that allows you to decrease instability, which instability is the higher your instability, the higher chance of getting a rare mutation, getting uncommon mutations. Another prop, you can remove a random mutation, and it removes all stacks of that mutation. So if you get lucky and you've got a mutation stacked up 4 or 5 times, you can remove the entire set. The last one is it allows you to upgrade your Azul items. So as I mentioned earlier, Azul items are not they're not stackable like standard items. You can only ever hold one, but you can upgrade them, and functions in a similar way to stacking items.
Karad on YouTube asks, is there any form of saving as far as the money goes in game? Yes, you're always saving it. You do not you don't lose any of your money between stages. Of course, you obviously have to spend it in order to purchase items, or in the case of stones, to get rid of mutations or upgrade your Azul items, or whatever it may be used for.
Just in case we might be misinterpreting that, if you're meaning like saving the progress in a run, since the runs are relatively short, you can't save and continue where you left off in a run. Typically speaking, runs will be under an hour, unless you just have an extremely good run. But there is progression saving. So right now we're playing with all items unlocked, all characters unlocked. But as you go through, you're going to start off with just the Wayfarer. So there's 5 other characters for you to unlock, and about half the items start locked as well. So you get to unlock those, and that progress does save, of course. You don't have to unlock everything in one run and one play session. So for the first boss, there are ways to counter it. So that club attack that he has, and it does have a minimum range, so you can get into range of him, and he won't be able to hit you, and then he will try and stomp you after that, of course. So you have to be aware of what's going on, but you can try and bait him to go ahead and use that attack and such. But there are ways to counter. It does take a little bit of time to get used to it. And once you start learning the items, a big thing on that first stage is you really have to find a healing item. So that's going to be the root or the alchemist belt. Field rations to a lesser extent, they are pretty useful early on because they give you a lot of healing. They do require you to stand still. Yeah, the giant can be pretty brutal to start with.
Of course, you also have the numerous of the characters, such as what I'm doing right now with the Bounty Hunter. My mobility skill is a bit of a side dash, and I drop a bomb. During that dash, I'm actually invulnerable. So there's a number of characters who have, or rather all of the characters, will have some form of mobility skill, which will either get them out of the way, or you actually get some invulnerability during that skill.
Yep.
Usually both.
And if anyone watching is having trouble with the first boss, the giant, of course, the Wayfarer is going to be one of the not the hardest character to beat him with, but it can be a little tricky because you are a melee character fighting a melee-only boss. But if you're having trouble with melee, after 3 attempts, you will unlock the Azulmancer. The Azulmancer being purely ranged can hide the giant very well. So that's an option if you're having trouble with the Wayfarer. It is definitely possible. You just got to learn his attacks, get the patterns down, figure out how to get around. So.
Unlike last time, where I had a lot of damage for taking out or overcoming the troll flesh. This time, I don't have quite the damage, so I have to be very aggressive with this boss fight so they don't get back too much healing. Unfortunately, though, me being aggressive is also dangerous because I don't have much healing.
Is a convenient level up.
That was indeed. Did you have an additional strategy for early game difficulties with the giant?
I will say, I know maybe a stigma people say against playing on easy mode and such, but really, until you start to learn the items and you're going in blind, it can be very hard to play. You don't know what build you're trying to do, what you're needing to stack. So there's no shame in picking easy mode for the first runs just to try and learn the items.
And as on the point of difficulty, Ancient lends itself to be a bit more on the difficult side. It's gonna take a little bit of getting used to the characters, the enemies, the bosses, and unlocking some items. You won't have every build available to you right from the get-go because you won't have them all. So you'll need to unlock the full suite of items and just keep on at it. You'll get progress. Like Garrett said, the unlock criteria for the Azulmancer, the second character, is die 3 times. So naturally, that will occur, and you'll get yourself the Azulmancer. So, but don't be discouraged if it's a little too hard at first. Although I do want to say that because if somebody's hoping for a casual game, this won't exactly fill that criteria.
Yeah. Now, that being said, once again, there are the different difficulties. We're playing on normal right now. Normal is plenty difficult for me. The hard difficulty can really get crazy. But you know, if we're wanting to just calm down, easy can be the way to go. Conrad on YouTube mentions we had to add a reward for being bad. But it's kind of the whole thing with Ancients. There of course is a final boss you can progress through, but a big chunk of it is just seeing how long you can survive, how long far you can go. There are some item unlocks that will require you to do much longer runs. Probably not going to be able to do them in the span of getting just to the boss. So there can be some. You will definitely end up dying. So it's not necessarily a matter of being bad.
As I said earlier, I died very quickly the last stream we did, within the first 5 minutes, probably within the first minute. So even
The very first time showing off the Nomad lasted about 30 seconds.
that it did. So certainly, and that could be me overstretching myself, trying to do more than my very limited early game item set would have allowed. There's a whole host of reasons that could happen. Could get just smacked by a Beastman Ancient for hundreds of damage and go down. Who knows? Or Beastman Alpha. I may have said Ancient. Really wants me to boost that long distance damage with those crew racers.
On the subject of difficulty, hey, if you're watching this game and you're familiar with Risk of Rain, you can see the obvious inspiration here. We're wanting to take a lot of what made that game fun, kind of change it up, put our own twist on things. So Risk of Rain, of course, difficulty scaling on time. In Ancient, Difficulty is primarily driven by your mutations. So that's the items up at the top. Those are just effects that the enemies are going to be getting. It ranges from them just getting a base damage buff all the way up to a lightning storm that you're going to have to try and survive. So it can be a pretty big varied there. That being said, the base level of the enemies, when you change stages, and the base cost of the things that you will find will be going up based off of how many stages you've been through or how long you've played. Not a main driver of difficulty, but if you're taking a lot of time on stages, say you're killing the final boss and traveling across the entire stage to get one item, and you add an extra 3 or 4 minutes, it can make things much, much harder.
I think I'll give myself a little bit of healing with the Priestess Mask, which works terrifically well for the Bounty Hunter because each shot actually is a spray of pellets from his blunderbuss, so each of those is going to independently give me a little bit of healing. And I might grab a Weeping Heartstone Azul item to increase my health regen and health. Maybe while we're doing that, grab some more armor and some more healing. All the items.
Doing pretty well on money so far. Yeah, that Heartstone, it's one of the more tame of the Azul items. It's not going to do anything drastic, but it does really help your survivability. So it's a good option, especially if you don't really have a specific build going. Just getting a bunch of extra health, getting some extra health regen. So unfortunately, your star in a bottle here, it is hitting the beholders on the way down, but it's not getting them in the explosion. So that's one of the weaknesses of it. Star in the bottle being the highest single damage item in the game, but it's relatively slow. It's not always going to land, and of course has a very hard time hitting flying enemies unless they're pretty low to the ground.
Well, I might just stick around a moment longer to get that Azul Stone. Do still have a Troll Flash mutation. That'll be something to attempt to get rid of. certainly getting our damage up pretty much just through attack speed. So what's going on is I have 3 X's of Alaric. What those are going to do is as I deal attacks, it's actually going to give me a temporary buff of additional attack speed. And that'll compound with my other items such as my practice swords. It will also increase my attack speed. So that's kind of pretty much all I'm doing right now is just shooting nice and fast. You know, you get a occasional star in a bottle or a cleansing wand for a little extra damage, but it is what it is. Just because I want to, because I think it'll be fun, I'm going to do another rare item purchase. Grab myself the Wind Blade. Y'all will see in a moment. I did give up my used up my Azul stones, so therefore I can't clear any mutations because I don't have any stones left.
Back to the cathedral again.
Yes, nearly an hour later, we are here yet again. So as you'll see, when it decides to proc, the Wind Blade's going to summon that wall of wind, which is very good at pushing back enemies and getting some nice high-speed tick damage. I guess just to let everybody know how much longer we plan on going for, I believe it will be until I die with this run. So if you, as we're only going to, by that metric, be showing off the Azulmancer, sorry, not the Azulmancer, we did not show the Azulmancer, showed off the Wayfarer and now the Bounty Hunter. If you'd like to catch some gameplay of those characters, you can check out some of our previous streams with the VODs over on YouTube. Otherwise, you certainly can also, now that it is available, you can pick up Ancient now and give them a chance and go for yourself. Ah, I gave myself mitosis with a shrine to the unknown god. Which I did stave off for quite some time last go around, but I did just have a follow-up potent to go with it, so
Yeah.
now
You
we're
do
gonna
not
get...
have the movement speed to get away from some of these guys either.
No,
So
I
I
do
have a
not.
feeling this is the end.
So that is a bit of the some of the balancing happening. I gotta choose whether to get rid of some mutations, lower instability, or buy items, but there's going to be consequences pretty much regardless of what you choose. Also, there will be consequences if you just shamelessly gamble your life frequently.
Now, it is a trade-off to make. The Shrine to the Unknown God, what gave him the mitosis. Of course, chance of it giving you mutations, but it's also the highest chance in the game to get rare items, to get Azul stones, and I mean, technically at no cost. The cost is just the risk involved. Be opening the door to the final boss room here. Of course, we're not going to go through. We're going to be spoiling that just yet, but let's let everyone else give that a shot themselves, find out that final boss fight's like.
These Cyclops with with some onslaughts, so they're attacking faster, gonna really dish out the damage. So
Yep. And that's how, mitosis just turned that around immediately. So you got those two potents. The way freezing stacks is that the more freezing you have, it does not increase the chance of receiving uh, a freeze, but every stack increases the amount applied. So combine that with potents, which are doubling the amount applied, and it can get very brutal. So I saw it died there with 50 stacks of freeze on him, basically holding him in place.
all right, and we can should be maybe some new stats there. Again, I have all the items unlocked. Yours won't look like this from the beginning. You need to unlock your items with their unique criterias. So you can see always some pretty high numbers here with my Wayfair records. And these are other things that will sort of keep your progress. You'll get your stats recorded at the end of every attempt, whether victorious or otherwise. And another means of progressing, getting some improved stats and challenging yourself. I think we're gonna wrap it all up there. So again, this is Ancient Legacy of Azul. We have just released it today. It is now available on Steam and itch.io. And yes, we have one last little question here from Filipino Playa over on Twitch. He's asking to unlock the Bounty Hunter. What does it mean to unlock 15 items? So because you'll have items that are starting out locked, the process of unlocking those upon reaching 15 will also get you access. And that's not necessarily for the Bounty Hunter. The Bounty Hunter actually has the... I can't see it because I have him unlocked, but it's a different unlock criteria, but that's what that would mean.
Yep, I
So,
believe it is the Pathfinder. You have to unlock the different characters. So, if I remember correctly, if you look in your lifetime stats under the records, it will tell you how many things you have unlocked.
mm-hmm.
So that will be, just journal, records tab on the right, and then right in the middle, you got that total unlocks. So, now of course, this is a dev build here, so we forced unlocked a lot of stuff, so it's not going to show the amount of unlocks. There are a lot more than 17 unlocks there.
I thought that number looked low. That makes sense. All right. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope you enjoy Ancient. Feel free to reach out to us on social media, the Steam Community Hub. If you have any big feedback, we'll most likely make some locations for reporting bugs if anything gets found. But again, hope you enjoy. Thanks for tuning in, and hope to see y'all in the next one when we maybe release some more content for Ancient, maybe working on the next game. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everyone.